Hey everybody, it's Nico with this week's ThoughtLoad, and today I want to talk about and share some stories on empathy. Now, some of you may have heard people talking about empathy in social media rings. Gary Vee is big talking about empathy, same with Brene Brown. I love everything she says about empathy and vulnerability and everything in between. But I've had some things happen recently where I noticed that I was choosing empathy, and I just felt like sharing that. I feel like the world needs a little bit more of that. And so one of the things that happened this week was we had a call scheduled for a podcast, and the person that we had scheduled for the call, the introductory call, didn't show up. And I waited 15, 20 minutes, something like that. There wasn't a response, nothing along those lines. And obviously, most people's first reactions in that type of situation is to wonder why there wasn't some type of communication, or why did you miss out and not tell us, or something like that. And what I tried to go to, or a place to try to go to, is I don't know exactly what this person is going through. I'm not going to assume that they just forgot or anything like that, because A, I don't know, and B, I've forgotten too. How many of us have said that we're going to do something for someone and we simply forget? Maybe there's too many things going on in our life. Maybe it just slips our mind. Maybe something else more important comes up and it just gets washed away in your thoughts. Whatever the case may be, we've all done that. And so instead of refusing to talk to him or anything like that, we just set up another call and kept moving forward. And while that may not happen every time, at least with the people that we have on for guests, I think it's an important story to bring up when we talk about empathy, because we always have to remember that we've done those things before. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a situation where you're picking on someone's actions because they didn't do something that you expected them to do, we have to probably sit back and think for a moment that, have we done those things that we're criticizing the other person for? Have you spoken to someone in a tone that you shouldn't have? Did you forget to attend a meeting? Did you, I don't know, turn something in late one time? All of us have done that. And so what I try and do in those situations is I put myself in the other person's shoes, empathize a little bit. And I think when we do that, we also realize that we don't know anything. We don't know what that person's life has been like. We don't know what they're going through in this moment. And so instead of judging, give a little empathy. Make them feel good. Make them feel heard. I think that goes a long way when you're meeting people, when you're establishing connections, or anything of the sort. Now, I think in those good moments to share, there's also bad moments to share when it comes to empathy. And this is when you maybe find yourself in a situation where you're seeing someone not choose empathy. And that happened to me in college. I was taking an accounting class, and the class had been going for 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And a student walked in late, and the teacher more or less stopped class to criticize the person that had walked in late, talking about how, they're not disciplined and should never show up late and yada, yada, yada. But she never asked him any questions. That person that walked in late, I don't think said a word. That's not fair, A. B, it's not a really good use of time. And C, without asking, how do you know exactly what the person is going through? And sure, we can make assumptions. It's college. It's a kid. It probably not showing up on time because they were doing something they weren't supposed to do. That's fine that you have that thought. But to express it like that in front of an entire class, it's not the best. So that moment taught me about wanting to seek to understand, to empathize with the person, and I don't know, maybe figure out why they were late first, right? Those types of decisions in those moments can go a long way. And even though it's extremely difficult to choose empathy at certain times, I want to remind everyone that anytime you're in a heightened state of emotion, whether it's positive or it's negative, that's never a time to make drastic decisions. And it's also the best time to choose empathy. Now, controlling those emotions and slowing yourself down enough to be able to think clearly and choose empathy is something that takes time and practice. But try and focus on your breathing, put yourself in the other person's shoes, and see if there is some type of way that you can connect with empathy. Every single person in our lives deserves more empathy than what they're currently getting. I can almost guarantee you that. And so I hope these little short stories inspire you, or at least make you think about empathy. Maybe check out some sources like Gary Vee or Brene Brown to learn what they have to say about empathy. But the most important part is just to remember we're all human. We are imperfect beings, and that it's okay if people don't meet our expectations. How we treat them is more important. So I hope this resonates with you. And I want to leave you with a quote from Mohsin Hamid. He says, "Empathy is about finding echoes of another person in yourself." Hope that one gets you to think a little bit. Guys, it was a pleasure connecting with you today. We'll see you again next week for another Thought Load. And as always, begin the duel, win the day.